Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining me for Friend a Tree Week. We have a special guest. April Alexander is here. She's been with me before on the podcast and talked with you and I about lots of things involved with herbs. She's a master herbalist, and we talked about trees before too, I think, at other times.
Yeah.
And we thought we'd do something different today and share about the tree metaphysical uses and folklore that we'd found. And so we picked five trees. And so this is kind of the little format that we're going to use this time is to these five cards. And I picked them from my tree oracle card deck. And I have the pictures downloaded, so I'll screen share to show the picture of each card while I'm reading about the Oracle card. And then April and I will share about different metaphysical and folklore things that we found about these trees. And so there's five. There's the walnut, the juniper, the almond, the linden, and if we have time, we'll do the alder. And we put the alder last just because it's not a tree that grows around either where I live or where April lives. And so I'll just talk a little bit about Friend a Tree Week to start with. It's September 19th through 25th because the energies of the equinox wax and wane like the energies of the moon. Then I allow for 3 days before the equinox and 3 days after the equinox to so we can hold our intentions and send them through the trees. The trees draw up our attention and our intentions and their energies. They gather our energy with theirs, and it flows out through the leaves of the trees, just like the air does for osmosis and the moisture that goes into the air. Our intentions can go throughout the universe, and I personally find that so exciting and wonderful.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about the walnut first. And I'm going to screen share this picture of the walnut tree. If we can figure out how we did it before. There we go. There.
Yeah.
Okay. There's the walnut tree. It's quite a unusual picture, I think. Definitely a goddess or a mother, a woman, right, bearing plants. And um, to me, it's kind of like the a balance. Perhaps the energies that we're in of Libra, right? Or yeah, that Libra is starting this week, right? Today maybe. And it's the scales of justice, perhaps, of balance. And um, she's holding a fruit in either side. To me, that kind of is interesting. I mean, it could be referring to like you think of weighing your fruit to purchase it at the grocery store, but the story in the Bible, we could include the Bible or spiritual things as the folklore, and of eating from the tree, the apple tree, right? Or the fruit tree in the Garden of Eden. And um, I think that story is referring to when she must have been worried about something, is what it feels to me. And I think, see, the mindset of God is freedom and abundance and love and equality, um,
Mhm.
as not an equality of the skills necessarily, but that everyone is equal, right, of equal worth. And the I think that she heard lies, like perhaps the mind or the ego or other spiritual entities that perhaps are of not of the mindset of abundance and love were in the Bible story. That's the story of the snake saying, God doesn't want you to be like he is. That's why he doesn't want you to eat from this because you won't have all the skills that God does, or you can't do all the things that God does. And so I think she probably, like our child, starts to worry, well, maybe he doesn't love me. Maybe he doesn't want me. Maybe I'm not worth it. Maybe I'm not enough.
Mhm.
And like our old stories, And so I think the equality, the balance refers to this balance of the hemispheres of our mind, so that the communication between the two is smooth, so that we can hear our inner selves, our spirits, and speak our truth. And so that's what it looks like to me for the walnut. But I'm going to read from my tree angel oracle deck here. Says the walnut is one of the earth's ancient mothers because of the nourishment it provides. Of course, the walnut nourishes us in material sense through fruit, but its spiritual gift is wisdom. Coming into accord with the walnut angel strengthens our foresight, understanding, sensitivity, and ability to emphasize. This creates a healthy foundation for our powers of judgment and sense of justice. With the help of Walnut, we draw the right conclusions from our experiences, attaining a mature and deep understanding of life and its governing principles. Since time immemorial, the gentle power of Walnut has been honored for its contribution to our spiritual development. Without the walnut, we can act in a superficial, hasty, and short-sighted manner. All too often, this results in needless confrontation, quarreling, and conflicts. So, April, what do you think about the walnut, or what did you find about the walnut?
The walnut in herbalism is like if you open up a walnut, it looks like the brain, right? So it's like it's
Mm-hmm.
always about mental clarity, like those kinds of things. And so it was kind of interesting to me to see that, and metaphysically, it was also associated with mental clarity and wisdom, and also transformation. So it's like about going into that deep inside of who you are, and like and being able to really sit with yourself in those pieces that you don't necessarily want to see, and sitting with them honestly and being able to transform those energies into something much more um much more in light, to what you are, because we all have a shadow side. We all have that place, and a lot of people hear shadow, they hear like, like they think it's like the dark side where you like want to kill somebody or something, but it's not. It's
Mm-hmm.
the sides of us that we don't necessarily want to see or recognize. It doesn't make it bad or good. It's just the places
Mm-hmm.
that we've put in a pocket somewhere because, one day somebody was like, "Oh, it's not, your drawing's not good," or, "Oh no, that food isn't really, healthy for you," or, like it's the pieces of us that we hide away because we've been ashamed by it somehow. And so
Yeah.
to be able to kind of break through those illusions and go through that introspection process really kind of helps you get into who you are and your center. And so it's like that's what trees do for us, is they help to kind of give us a backbone. They give us the strength to be able to go to those places that we haven't, that we don't necessarily always want to go, or places that we are in and we need help to kind of transform them. So it's like always that grounding space. It's like, and then not only that, but it's grounding, but it's also when it goes to the heavens, it's also that abundance of, the macrocosm and not the micro in which we live.
Right.
Mhm.
Beautiful.
It's also
Yeah.
linked with the crown chakra and the third eye, and it aids in spiritual insight and intellectual growth. But here we are again, right? The walnut nut actually looking like a brain. So here we are with that
Mm-hmm.
crown chakra again. So if you look, it's always that association, like it always goes back, and and I like when it does that because it's like, oh, more confirmation. Oh, more confirmation that like that this is true. And then there's this thing called the doctrine of signatures, like that the walnut does look like a brain. It's got the hard outer shell, and when you crack it open, that nut has all those waves and everything else in there
Mm-hmm.
that looks like
Mm-hmm.
the brain. So it's like, it's like, how did people know about this stuff before there was research out there or anything else? It's like they learned by doing, they learned by trying, and it's all about
Mm-hmm.
spiritual growth and intellect. Its wood was actually used as wands and talismans for
Ah. Like for like the
protection.
willow and dowsing, or
Right.
you're saying that like the king or queen's wands,
It's
or
more like
magician
wands or
wands?
talismans for protection and enhance mental focus. So it's like they were, like they would, You know how in the old stories and old folklore and stuff, they would always have like branches or trees or something above their door. It's kind of like, they call that like a talisman, or you can even call it a wand, but it all depends on what part of the branch you took. And I don't think wands
Right.
were always meant to necessarily do spells like we're taught in like fairy tales and stuff like that. Sometimes, like wands are to put a line in the sand, like no dark energy or no bad energy comes into my home kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's what I kind of, we have to expand our mind and what we think wands were. Like we hear wands, we think magic, we think Harry Potter, we think all these
Right.
like, things. And yes, they are those things, but it's those things not necessarily with something pointing at you to do damage to you, or put a spell on you. It's just to kind of bring your higher consciousness into my home, or into my realm where I am. I really think wands were mostly like where p- talismans that people brought around with them to give them that protection that they needed when they were going into specific situations.
Yes, I've heard that wands are like a mm, activation. Using a wand or pointing a wand is like activating our inner power
Hmm.
for choosing that what we wanted to do or whatever, so it wouldn't have to be magic, right? And
Right.
that would kind of go, you were talking about, how it symbolizes the brain and wisdom. um it's normally called scepters, I
Right.
guess, if it's held by a king or a queen, but it's the same thing, right? It's the pointing with the, of their rulership, of their
Right. And I also
authority.
think like doing it through a tree, like even though some people have ill intent, which people can have ill intent about a lot of things, I also think that doing
Hmm.
it through a tree or a talisman of some sort, I think it gives it some sort of clearing in the sense, because trees are
Hmm.
very clearing, they're very grounding. So it's almost like, and they're always like, don't do spells on people unless you want to get threefold back. So it's like, always being mindful of like what we're doing, like what is it that we're bringing to the table, what is it that you want to do, like there's always darkness in everything, no matter what you do. Like AI is great for other things, but then AI can be bad for other things, so it's like there's always
Right.
that, the yin and the yang in everything, so it's not to,
Yeah.
I say shadow side, I say wands, like I say all these things, but I don't say it to bring fear into people. I just say it to bring education and awareness and understanding to it,
Mhm.
because sometimes, things that we don't know, or things that we think we know, they're not necessarily the way that they're portrayed in our histories.
Right. Well, yes, absolutely. Um, so much of our history, you can't say it's true. In fact, it's been proven false in many things, right?
Well, it's his
And
story, right? It's his
it's
story.
written by the winner, or
Right.
whoever was in the authoritarian at the time, or the no in
The
authority
king,
at the
yeah,
time.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And so I'm gonna look up here on my. I'm just going to read it here.
Mhm.
Look from it on if there was other metaphysical things.
There you are.
There, this is the Walnut Metaphysical, the things that I had pulled up, and the thing you talked about most of these, um, fertility.
Yeah.
That was because we've talked about the grounding and protection and wisdom,
Mhm.
and
Well,
so,
fertility makes sense anyway, because where do spirits come from? They come from the heavens and they come down and above. So if we're dealing with the crown, I think that's
mhm,
where we first call in, our baby spirit, where it comes from. It's like,
yeah.
who has the soul contract that I need? Come on down.
Yeah, something like that. I remember I did hypnosis to try to remember what it was like in the oneness, right? And so it was very vivid, and I've done it more than once. And first of all, I was just part of the oneness where everything was love and light, and I was part of that. And then I differentiated, or if you could call it that. So I was just myself, but
Right.
surrounded by light. right?
Mhm.
And love. And then I could look to my left and I was given a choice, right? Do you want to join this or not? Right? Or whatever the
Right.
choice was. But I looked to my left and I saw my parents' energies.
Mhm.
And I said yes. And the next thing I knew, I was experiencing skin forming around me. And it was really, I mean, it went
Big deal.
into, there was some trauma that I had in the womb. And so it went through that and on. But it was very interesting as a remembrance of where we come from and who we are.
Yeah, and it's too like, even having a near death experience, although it's on the other side, it's not the birthing side, it's the
Hmm.
other side. It's still a birthing process. We birth
Yeah,
on both ends of the spectrum, like, and being in this physical body is very constraining versus our spiritual body, which is so immense. It's like you can't even wrap your mind around how big it is because everything's all
right.
one and one's all everything. So it's like, to
Absolutely.
have that experience on either end is kind of an interesting thing
It
to,
is.
like, 'cause it's like you hear these stories about these, these people that have had near death experiences and they come back changed. Like,
Hmm.
materialism no longer works for them. Like they have a hard time functioning within this realm because it's like they have a different understanding of what life really is and what it means.
Yeah, yeah.
You know?
Very
But then
interesting.
I think about this in the way of fertility. It's like then everybody has access to that because we've all been birthed into the earth already. So we already have
Hmm.
access to what that is. But what makes us change from this all, like this all encompassing being to like, what society makes us and molds us into be.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. Interesting.
Right?
Oh, I'm going to take a look then at the I can do this at um folklore about the walnut tree.
Okay.
And one of them was about what I found very interesting, had to do with the fertility. It was the Slavic walnut of fertility. In
Hmm.
Slavic folklore, a walnut tree was often planted near a newlywed couple's home to ensure fertility and prosperity. One tale tells of a barren couple who slept under a walnut tree on a full moon, and the tree spirit blessed them with twins, but only after they vowed to protect the tree.
Huh.
So, yeah,
Reciprocity, right? Here we go.
yeah, yeah. And then there's another one about the Roman witches' walnut tree. In Romanian, not Roman. In Romanian folklore, walnut trees were believed to be gathering places for witches during midnight rituals. One tale tells of a villager who climbed a walnut tree to spy on a witch's Sabbath, only to be cursed with sleeplessness until he burned a branch from the tree as an offering to appease the spirits. So, and I'll read one more and then I'll see what you found. The let's see, the English haunted walnut. In
Hmm.
English folklore, a walnut tree near a village was said to be haunted by a restless spirit. The story tells of a farmer who cut a branch for firewood only to hear ghostly wails at night until he planted a new walnut sapling to appease the spirit, which then granted him bountiful harvest. So, did you find anything on folklore?
I did. I found that in ancient Rome, walnut trees were sacred to Jupiter. But in
Oh,
medieval Europe, they were associated with witches and malevolent spirits who gathered under the walnut trees for the Sabbaths, which hence that, the story that you had, which I was like, oh, that's
yeah,
interesting. And it,
yeah.
like, but it also reflects duality, right? So it's like, the shadow and the light again. Like everything has a dual purpose. Like whatever's used for light, you can use for dark too, so it's kind of an interesting thing. And then,
or or it gives of the changes of words through the centuries, because I would think for witches who today it's a little different, things are shifting, right? People are claiming the old meaning of the witch, which you live close to nature, close to in communion with spirit, right?
right.
And being able to use those energies of nature and of the spirit, um, harness those in some way or follow them and tap into them to benefit our lives today. But so for centuries and centuries, or however long it was, the word witch was very bad, right?
Right. Yep.
And and
What was it really? Like, what were they really trying to do? Because
right,
always witches were
absolutely.
midwives, they were
Hmm.
herbalists, they were
Yes,
people that lived close to the earth. So it's like, why, what was really going on that they wanted to wipe these people off the earth?
right, absolutely. They were, yeah, people, probably because um, people, often things are done by religion, right? Or not the people that are trusting and believing in God as part of religion, but as the um, rulers, isn't quite those in authority, or that are trying to steer things to benefit whatever they want, right?
Their
And not
agenda,
just
yeah.
religion, but politics is a big example of that too, right?
Right, for
And
sure.
and so
But it's also
yes.
like, like who says that my culture's right and the Native Americans are wrong? Like who
Mhm.
says that? Like why can't, like if I can be Jewish and you can be Christian, like and like why can't there be other ways of living? Like why can't we all commingle and coexist and just accept people for being different? Isn't that what
Right,
America was based on? Like or the world should be based on, like
right.
because it's like we're all people, we're all humans, like so it would be nice to treat each other that way.
Yeah, yeah, it would.
But
All right, go
walnut was
ahead.
also a deep tree of introspection, which was like the big thing. So in the Eastern
Hmm.
European folklore, walnut shells were used as divination, and the tree's wood was considered protective against negative energies. Just the shells.
Just the shells. Interesting. Yeah, I wouldn't have even thought of shells having the meaning. Yeah.
And here's another thing about the walnut tree. So I have black walnut that grows around me,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
there's something within the walnut, some sort of I don't know, like constituent anyway, where you and if a walnut falls close to the like close to the root system of the walnut that's growing, it will never. There's no trees that ever grow around the walnut tree.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh, that's kind of an interesting thing. It's almost, and that I think that's where that protection comes from, like this area of
Oh, that
protection,
makes sense.
right? Because no other trees are growing within a specific radius of those walnut trees because of whatever whatever pheromones or whatever that they give off that they don't know, nothing else grows around them.
Well, and not just other walnut trees, but a
All
lot of
trees.
flowers and things
Yeah.
don't grow. Or like, say, for mulching, if you're using, going to a cabinet shop to get, um, shavings to use as compost or mulch in your garden, you shouldn't get any with walnut, right? Where
Right.
they've used walnut in them. I
Yeah.
suppose it,
Unless you want to get rid of systemic weeds, and then you definitely want the
there,
walnut
there
until it's
you
ready to
go.
be down. You put other ones there, right?
There you go, for sure.
But it's good to. I think it's good to know these things just as much as it is the folklore and the metaphysical of the tree, because it's like it's all about living together in harmony. So it's
Yeah, yeah.
so it's like how can we work together? How can we work with nature instead of against
For sure.
it?
Absolutely. That's the question I ask, and not just of nature, but of the sky clock energies, of
Yeah.
the all the things, the interactions between the planets and stars and stuff. It's like, it often causes us to feel, roller coaster. We were
Yep.
talking a little bit of that about that before we started, and it's like, yeah, it's just to remember that and pause. How can I work with you instead of against you?
Right. It's like feel
Yeah.
the wave.
Yeah, that's it. Well,
Yep.
let's go on to the juniper now. So there's the juniper.
Hmm.
All right, our next tree is juniper. The juniper wears a serious expression, yet one that is also seriously beautiful. Juniper has all the attentiveness and powers of observation of the spiritual warrior, combined with the patience and devotion required to stand alone on the moor and keep watch for us all. The wind tugs at its leaves, a feather whirls past, and a juniper looks into the distance and sees everything. There are occasions when we need to act and others when we should bide our time. It is not that the juniper is passive, but rather that it has mastered the art of patience. It holds out and holds true. It doesn't feel weary, nor does it feel self-pity. Juniper knows destiny because it is at one with destiny. It deals with the inevitable out of devotion rather than duty. Juniper gives its whole being, its whole life to service. Its life itself is the gift without any hidden agendas or quest for personal gain. It gives because it loves, but without so much as a whisper of this love on its lips. Juniper's willingness extends far beyond any personal desires, and it is always willing, even when it meets us with silence. If the angel of Juniper comes to you, duty becomes devotion. Fulfill your duty, and you will be fulfilled.
Hmm.
Saintly patience and incredible stamina will be yours, along with tenacity, perseverance, and uncompromising steadfastness. Wow. I had no idea that was the oracle or the meaning of the juniper tree. What did you find in metaphysical? Was it real like spiritual related like this? Or
No,
being
it wasn't. It was
love?
mostly like cleansing, protective energy, clears negative, restores balance. It's associated with the chakra of the solar plexus. So it's like grounding and empowering spirit. And like its berries were used in rituals for purification and protection and banishing negativity. And it's also used to enhance psychic abilities.
Hmm.
Yeah. But juniper's juniper in Native American was actually used to smudge for you know
Hmm.
smudge for
Negative energies, yeah.
sweep, yeah. And then but the thing about juniper is like juniper grows here, and juniper the birds love the juniper berries. They eat them like crazy.
Yeah.
But when you eat them,
Yeah.
they're not very good for humans. I've tried. I was
Yeah.
like, they're very like aromatic, and they leave this awful taste in your mouth, you know. So I'm
Yeah.
surprised that they want to eat them, but I mean, obviously, well, they also have antimicrobial, antibacterial properties, so it just makes sense that after all season of eating, berries with worms or other things in there, I'm sure that having a antibacterial, antimicrobial would be very beneficial for them.
Well, that's true.
Yep. Yeah. But the saying that kept coming up was, "I will guide you between the realms. Walk boldly, you are shielded." Like that's kind of like the
Oh,
same like thing that kept coming up for me as I was researching Juniper.
oh, wow.
Mhm.
I like that. I'm
Right?
going, yeah, I'm going to pull up here my metaphysical things that I found on the juniper. Um, Symbol of protection and purification. And you talked about that
Mhm.
connection to spiritual growth through clarity and intuition. Yeah. Um, Resilience and eternal life. Hmm. The bridge between life and death.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, juniper embodies a duality of life and death. Its use in ancient Egyptian mummification and burial rituals reflects its role in guiding souls to the afterlife, while its evergreen quality signifies life's continuity.
Mm.
In some indigenous cultures, it connects ancestors to and the spirit world.
Oh, I wonder if that's why they would smudge with it instead of like clearing. Well, I'm sure they did both.
Yeah,
Because your ancestors in the spirit world also protect you. So when you pull in those guides, it's like, "Oop, ward off all that negativity."
yeah, yeah, because the one right under there says aids in divination and otherworldly communication, and that's talking about smudging it or the smoke from burning juniper,
Yeah.
which would
And
be
and
about
it
the
burns
same.
very well because of its, all of those resins that it has in there because of those aromatic
Yeah,
qualities. So it does burn very well, that's for sure. Have you ever
right.
seen a Christmas tree I mean, granted it's a spruce, but still it's that same kind of type of like, blows up like it goes up like gasoline when you burn it.
Yeah, yeah, huh. Interesting. Do they burn it the green leaves? or does it have to be dead leaves?
Well, they usually dry it, so it's green, but
Okay.
like it's not the brown because when you
Okay.
dry it properly, it stays greenish. Yep,
Yeah. Okay. Very
still
good.
has those qualities intact.
Interesting. Well, what did you find on
Folklore.
folklore then?
Yeah, in Celtic and Norse tradition, juniper was the sacred tree in the Celtic and Norse cultures, and it was associated with purification and protection. In Native American tribes, juniper was used in smudging ceremonies to ward off negative energies and promote healing. And the berries were also used in medicine and as offerings.
Okay.
And then in European folklore, it was believed to protect against witches, demons, and disease. But here we are
Huh.
with that, and it was boughs were hung over the doors during Beltane to make sure no malevolent spirits came. So
Uh,
it's like there you go again with that, like that protection. Like trees
Yeah.
protect us. They protect us and ground us, so it's like that constant, like whether it's spiritual protection or earthly protection or like it's always like this common thread of the backbone, like the protection, like that guiding force.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I found something about the Grimm brothers fairy tales, right?
Oh, cool.
One was the juniper tree, and
Hmm.
this is from German folklore. In this, it's a dark fairy tale. It says
Of
a
course.
boy is murdered by his stepmother, and his bones are buried under a juniper tree. His spirit transforms into a bird that sings of his fate, ultimately leading to justice. The juniper tree in this story is a mystical entity tied to death, rebirth, and retribution, reflecting its dual symbolism of life and vengeance.
Mm, that's
That,
interesting.
yeah. And then there's two of them that ties them to Christianity or to biblical
Mm.
folklore. One is it had to do with Elijah and the angel when Elijah fled from Queen Jezebel's pursuit of him, that he took refuge under a juniper tree, and another one about the tale of when Mary and Joseph fled to Egypt when um, baby Jesus was a newborn,
Oh,
and
wow.
that it was they hid in it to conceal them from people who were looking for him. So again, the protection.
Right. Yeah. And it's almost like making you disappear, type of protection. Like, other people
Oh,
can't see you.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's interesting. And there's one more I found about a Scottish ritual of seining. I'm not sure exactly what seining means. Saining.
Okay.
In Scottish folklore, juniper branches were burned during seining rituals, particularly on New Year's Day, to purify homes and protect against negative forces or evil spirits. It was believed to cleanse the household and ensure good fortune. While
Yeah. And I
this,
wonder, I think they made, like, I mean, it probably wasn't it was probably their spiritual like work, but they also made
Mhm.
juniper brooms, like to literally
Oh,
sweep the energies out,
yeah.
which was, I mean, they made brooms out of a lot of things, but, like,
Mhm.
I think that was pretty cool. I was like, oh, that makes sense.
And wouldn't it smell good?
Yeah,
Yeah,
right? It would smell good. It
yeah,
would clean all the corners of all the energy stuck in there and be like, "Get out." And I
yeah,
wonder if it would be
yeah.
like also like an like a bug deterrent too,
Oh, yeah, yeah. Cool.
right?
Well, our next tree is the linden tree, and its lindens are um, have become one of my very favorite
Oh yeah,
trees.
I love Linden.
And I'm so blessed to have two of them right outside my back door. And there's a picture of the linden angel tree.
Mhm.
And the angel of the linden or lime tree,
Mhm.
huh, is intimately connected with one of the human soul's most important resources of power, the universal desire to find equilibrium, to find true harmony through which all forms of life can thrive. It is for this reason that linden trees live to such a great age and why they are such powerful healers. It is also why they were traditionally the trees under which counsel was held and judgment given. Come to the spirit of the linden to tap into this deep and fundamental sense of harmony for yourselves and others, for animals and for the plants themselves. The more deeply you develop linden's ancient sense of balance, the happier and calmer you will feel. It is not, however, to reach a place of rest, but is a constant striving on your own behalf to finally access a great power that is available to you, the forgotten power of the dragon. Dragons are symbols of the living energy of the earth and their blood of the invincible river of creation itself. That's interesting. I didn't know about a tie between the linden tree and the dragon.
No, me either. Hmm.
The power of the angelic linden stands for social justice, dignified and humanitarian aims, and the impetus behind charitable work. The power of linden is too fundamental to the earth to disappear from it altogether. If the linden had not stepped out of the Garden of Eden into the dense matter of creation, the earth would not have survived for long. The
Mm.
sacred groves of linden trees were not just destroyed historically in the physical world, but even more tragically within ourselves. And without a vibrant connection to our own inner temple of healing and forgiveness, the most terrible horrors are inflicted upon the world. Injustice, racism, lack of compassion, conflict, making scapegoats of people, the stealthy and lawless activities of secret things, including torture. The picture with regard to ourselves is no prettier either. Prejudice, conflict, abuse of all kinds, heartlessness, which can manifest in the physical body as fatigue and chronic illness.
Mm.
Wow.
Linden's pretty important in our lives, huh?
Oh, I guess. I know it has become very, very, very important to me. I hold my intentions in the linden tree, or if I don't feel good, or my mind is kind of, gray, some that not so I'm not thinking right. What's that mean? You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
foggy. And that's where the gray came from, I guess, foggy. And, then I just go to the linden tree and hold it and ask for healing. And it's like I just wait and feel it working, and then it's done and I'm good.
Right? Isn't
It's
that funny?
just beautiful. Yeah.
Linden is such a loving tree. It's like it's one of the first trees that I ever met. And it was just like so loving and like just told you. You just feel really held and like connected to it pretty quickly.
Yes.
I actually had a linden tree yelling at me that, I was walking through a school campus, and there was a light that was on the linden tree. And they were like, the linden was like, please tell that light to turn off. I can't get to sleep. And that was the first
Oh,
time I realized how artificial light not only affects us, but it affects the trees around us too.
wow. Yeah. Yeah. We don't stop and think.
Right. And well, we don't stop at all. We're on to our next adventure. Like
Yeah.
we're constantly going from A to B, and we're not being on the journey. It's like, oh, I got to get this by that time. I got to do that by this time. And it's like, but what about the journey in between? So
Yeah.
I think Linden gives us, it's a tree of love, but it's also a tree like that tells us to like be still for a moment. It's okay. You know, don't run away.
Yeah. Thanks for that memory.
Yeah.
Reminder. Yeah. So did you find other metaphysical things too?
I did. So Linden's associated with heart-centered energy, promoting love, compassion, and emotional healing. Right? Isn't that crazy? It's
Yeah.
considered a tree of harmony and balance. It's connected with the heart chakra.
Mhm.
It aims to give us emotional freedom, openness, and forgiveness. And in meditation, Linden is used to foster inner peace, connect to the divine love that's everywhere. The wood or the leaves may be used in charms for protection or to attract love. They're big into love spells.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the symbolism of it is love, truth, peace, and community.
Mm, gosh.
Which is like,
Lovely.
yeah. And it sits beneath to sit beneath the linden tree is to really feel the embrace of the divine feminine, the lover, the mother, the healer, who says, stay here, sit and rest. Like when
Mm.
I think of Linden, I always think of that book. What's that book he, uh, where she gives all of her, she's a tree. It's a Shel Silverstein book or something. The giving tree.
The giving tree, yeah.
And
Hmm.
that's what I think of when I think of Linden. It's like that
Ah,
story, constantly giving and giving, just so that like they can people can understand and realize like this is where we need to rest and restore. This is where truth, like there has to be a duality in life. There can't be all these blurred lines. There has to be a duality. If it's not, like yeah, there's gray areas. Don't get me wrong, but there's also like this is definitive. Like justice. Like it doesn't always justice isn't always pretty
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, for sure.
but always doing it in love. Like that's the reminder
Hmm.
of it. Like this is a tree that people went, like courts were held under the linden tree, and yet it's a tree of love. So it's like justice doesn't always have to be this, cutthroat, like kind of thing. It can be a thing of love and understanding too.
Yeah. Uh,
What kinds of metaphysical things did you find?
Again, that was the first one, symbol of love and harmony,
Yeah.
connection to divine feminine energy, um, often linked to feminine deities such as the Slavic goddess Leda or the Germanic Freya,
Hmm.
representing nurturing, protection, and fertility. Spiritual protection, believed to ward off negative energies, used as charms. The leaves are used as charms around the homes. Ah, I'll have to try that. Bring in
Some linden,
some, yeah, bring in some linden.
especially
Um,
when it's flowering. Oh my God, the smell in the house would be so beautiful.
oh, I know. It's just heaven to sit out there and like, and at our house, they're always full of bees when they're full
Yep.
of flowers,
It's
and you
like,
sit out there and you can vibrate with the bees. Yeah, it's just,
it's one of
mm.
my favorite times to go to New York City, believe it or not, is because when the linden they have so many linden trees in New York City that it's unbelievable, and you can just smell the sweetness in the air. And my daughter would live there for a while, and she would always be like, she had a linden tree right outside her apartment. And so I moved something into our house like a year after she moved in, and I was like, oh look, you have a linden tree right here. And her roommate came out to help us bring stuff up, and he was like, I've lived here for almost a year. He's like, I never even noticed that tree.
He was missing out.
He was. I was like, smell this. He's like, I never even thought about what that smell was.
Yeah.
It was just so
And
funny.
this was saying the meditation, that the flowers were to enhance meditation and open pathways to intuition.
Mm, I like
I,
that.
I, but yeah, a popular choice for aromatherapy.
Mm,
That would be neat.
that would.
Um, I I didn't do it this year. Have you ever made flower essences from the linden flowers?
Yes. Hmm.
I bet when you open the jar, it's just, different. Of course, it wouldn't be the full thing, but it's probably just so powerful. You open it up and it's holy, right?
Yeah, it really is. It really
That's
is.
how
That way
that's
it's
how
double.
flower essence feels to me when I open a jar of what I've made, regardless of what kind it is. It's like holy.
Yeah, I feel that way too. It's like holy water. It's like, oh, I just made holy water.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
um, and a symbol of longevity. In esoteric traditions, the linden's long lifespan is associated with wisdom, endurance, and the cyclical nature of life, often used in rituals to connect with ancestral knowledge. I thought that was interesting since I do a lot of ancestral clearing stuff in my work.
Maybe Linden needs to be incorporated into your work.
I think so. I will have to,
Mhm.
yes, I'll have to.
Knocking on your front door. I don't know what you're waiting for.
Well, that's true. It's right outside. Like this is my office, right? And it's right outside the wall there. I mean, there's the porch and then there's that. And it's like, oh, wow.
Come play with me.
Yes, 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 yes. Well, I'm going to look up here for any folklore that I found about the linden tree. This would be lovers, the German lovers tree, it's called. In German folklore, a linden tree was often planted to mark a betrothal. I can't say it, an
Patrol.
engagement, betrothal, or marriage. One tale tells of a young couple who swore their love under a linden, and when they faced hardship, the tree's shade miraculously protected them from storms, symbolizing enduring love. That's
Oh,
beautiful,
that is.
isn't it?
Yeah, I really like.
Yeah. And let's see. This is a Polish witch's linden.
Hmm.
The linden tree was believed to be a meeting place for witches during moonlit nights. One story tells of a villager who spied on their rituals under a linden and was cursed to wander aimlessly until he planted a new linden as atonement. So, did you find folklore?
Yep, I got some European traditions. So the
Okay,
Slavic, Germanic, and the Baltic folklore are often
okay.
considered a sacred tree associated with love, protection, and community. In Slavic mythology, it's linked to the goddess of love, Lada, and was
Hmm,
oh, you heard about Lada before, and was planted in village centers as a meeting place for councils, celebrations, and rituals. In Germany, the linden tree was called the lover tree or tree of
okay,
justice because courts were held beneath them, symbolizing fairness and truth.
okay.
Yeah, and
And the Baltic, what was that about?
they're all the similar ones.
Oh, okay, okay.
They have the
And
similar stories, which I like because like when you hear stories repeated in different cultures, it's like I'm always like, oh, like everybody has like their stories, right? Because a story is a
uh,
story, right? So to hear that it comes
mhm.
from three different cultures and it's pretty similar, it's like, oh wow, that's kind of interesting. I mean,
It
it's just
is, it is.
next door, but still, the Baltic culture is still a little bit far from Germany, and to have that same story being said over and over again, it's like, oh wow, there must have been some truth in time about that.
Yes, yeah. Now mine, that I'd found the story about the Baltic linden tree was about fertility.
Oh, nice.
The linden trees in the Baltic were associated with fertility and motherhood. A story recounts a barren woman who prayed under a linden tree and was blessed with a child after leaving offerings of honey and bread at its roots,
Oh,
relieved to appease the tree's spirit. But the honey, that reminds me of the bees, right? In the
not only that, but
flowers.
it also reminds me of the smell of the linden flowers. They smell like honey to me.
They do, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, it's just beautiful, yeah.
it is. I love it when they're in full bloom. The bees
Yeah.
eat them up so quick here. They're like, they bloom and then 3 days later they're gone. I'm like, ah,
Yeah, yeah.
longer. But we have like the big leaf linden and the little leaf linden here. So we have a little bit longer of a, because the one blooms later
Oh,
than the other.
now how big is the big leaf?
It's not that big. It's, but the little leaf linden is, like they're just this big and
Oh, okay.
you know,
So so we probably have the big leaf here about like that.
right.
Okay. Okay.
That,
Neat.
but it's
Interesting.
beautiful. Yeah.
Well, we'll go on to the next one then, the almond tree.
Okay.
She's beautiful, isn't she?
Good.
What a lovely angel there.
Yeah.
When winter snow covers the northern hemisphere, the first tree to bloom under southern skies is the almond. From the very beginning, almond's white splendor opened the heart of humanity. The almond tree is a manifestation of divine love. It strengthens our ability to be loyal and honorable and to act with clarity and empathy. Almond elevates our sense of divine worth and provides the impetus needed on our spiritual journey. It is the mystic's tree. In Aramaic, its older Aramaic name means light, and in ancient Jewish tradition, the almond tree is also associated with the omnipresence of God. The botanical name, uh, see if I can pronounce it, amygdalus, hails from the Middle East and stems from the ancient Sumerian Amagah, meaning great mother. The almond angel encourages us to search for the divine in life, to live with the very best intentions by the highest ideals possible. The future belongs to the children, which is reason enough to fill the present with love. Ask and you will receive, but that is just the beginning. The path to the throne of the almond goddess is long and is one of inner development and initiation. Almond's spiritual dimension is like a great mandala, a word that is close to the German Mandel, meaning almond. In this sense, it reminds us of the labyrinths once walked by pilgrims found on the floors of some cathedrals, such as the Chartres in France. The, the seers of ancient Canaan spoke about the ancient city of Almond, a place of spiritual perfection, like the legendary city of Shambhala in the Himalayas. Open the almond flower inside your heart, follow the scent of purity, and the center shines the all-encompassing light of love.
Hmm. I really like
Yes, as even during the darkest periods of human history, the revelation of the angel of almond has been a slender thread of hope.
that. That makes sense.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So, what other metaphysical uses did you find?
So, almond trees carry vibrant awakening energy associated with new beginnings and clarity. So it's like an initiator. It's connected to the third eye chakra, enhancing intuition and foresight. Almond wood and nuts are used in rituals for prosperity, wisdom, and awakening hidden potentials. Carrying an almond can attract luck or success because everybody just carries almonds in their pockets, right? And symbolism is hope, renewal, fertility, divine wisdom. The almond's early blooms make it a potent symbol for resilience and promise. But there, like I also think um, I think of my mother-in-law and her Italian heritage and how I don't know, like there's certain holidays where she's like dead set on getting those, those candy covered almonds.
Hmm.
Like and I
Mhm.
don't know why she like, but there's certain times like I don't even remember if it's Christmas. I don't. It might be Easter. I think it's Easter that she's like dead set on getting those candy covered almonds, and I'm like, but why? But I guess in
Mm.
Italian tradition, I'm sure that like obviously it has some sort of net you know lore there to like to have that during Easter celebration, just
Yeah,
like
they
like
must.
it's really important for them to have the seven fishes at at
Hmm.
Christmas.
Okay.
Yeah. So there has to be some sort of spiritual thing going on with that.
Yeah, yeah, there must,
Mhm.
for sure. Anything else on that, the metaphysical?
It's well, it carries the sparks of love and divine flavor.
All right. I
Yeah.
like that. The
Like it's really kind of an interesting nut, like when you think about it, because it's actually kind of bitter, depending on what
hmm,
stage of ripeness you get it in. And even like sometimes it's stringent, like when you bite it, like it takes all of your juice out of your mouth, like when you eat a lot.
right, right. So what's I've heard like in say California for the almond groves in California or whatever, that almost all the almonds are automatically what do you call it, radiated, before they're sold because there's a something like a poisonous thing or something um, around the almond, or maybe it's the
Mhm.
outer juice around under the shell or something, and so they're radiated for a certain length of time to be sure that no one gets poisoned by it. Have you heard of that?
I haven't, but I wouldn't be surprised because even with cashews, like cashews are in the poison ivy family.
Right,
And
right,
so cashews, even though they say raw cashews, they're not really raw cashews
mm,
because, you'd have that same poison ivy. Like you got
right.
to think about it. So all nuts are seeds.
Yeah.
So they
So,
all have a protective memechanism. That's why birds eat them because then they go through the digestive tract, they poop them out, and then the seeds
mhm,
can be reborn. So there's some sort of protect because it has to survive their digestive system in order to be able to procreate into the next
mhm.
tree. So it's like I think all nuts and seeds have some sort of covering in them. I know they have phytates for
Okay.
us. Like phytates, what they do is they make it so that we can't absorb other nutrients within our body. So if we're going to eat nuts
Okay.
with seeds, we should actually soak them before we eat them to remove the phytates before we actually do that. But then you have to like re-dehydrate them in order to get them
Mm,
crunchy again. Because a lot of people don't
right.
want soft nuts, you
Yeah.
know? And then
Yeah.
people are like, yeah, we don't want to deal with that process. So we'll just eat those nuts. So I mean, but nuts are seeds. So, and,
Mhm.
they have they definitely have a protective quality to them. So even though I
Interesting.
haven't heard that about the almond specifically, I've heard about it with other nuts. And so that makes
Okay.
complete sense to me.
Do you think most nuts are radiated then before they're sold?
I don't know if they're radiated. I think each one has its own process in which it has to go through
Hmm.
in order to, but then they're like, oh, raw nuts. But,
They're
like,
not. Yeah.
Nobody really knows what's in their food unless you grow it yourself or you know your farmer,
Yeah.
like that's really honestly the truth, you know?
Right, right. But like the black walnuts, right? I grew up, shelling those and putting them in banana bread or, other things or whatever. Or I really like black walnut ice cream that actually has the black walnuts in it and stuff. It's really good.
Yeah.
But it's like um we can shell them and eat them, so walnuts at least
But
aren't.
also think about
Um,
the walnut tree. They have that big green thing outside of them that's
yeah, yeah.
protecting them. So it's like, to get to them, it's really deep down inside.
So what plant does the cashew, we're digressing here, but the cashew, what part of the cashew nut comes from what plant? I mean, you said it's in the
No, it's
poison
a
ivy
cashew
family.
tree, but it's in the poison ivy family. So it has that
Okay, okay,
urushiol on it, which
okay.
urushiol is the oil that poison ivy makes every half the population allergic to. So that urushiol
Right.
gives us the rash.
So the even if we didn't touch the tree, if we just touched the nut, if it wasn't radiated, we could get poison
Well, it's
ivy
not
from it?
radiated. I don't know what process they
Oh,
use, but I
oh,
know
but
that
some
they
other
use a specific
process.
process.
Okay,
Yeah, and I
okay,
think if they boil it really quick and then it goes away.
okay.
Because, like,
Yeah.
even with poison ivy, that's why you shouldn't take a hot shower or you shouldn't,
Mm.
do that because it spreads the oils. So what they probably do is they probably make all the oil come to the top and then they release the seeds out of the bottom and then, so that way
Mm.
it releases the urushiol.
Okay,
I don't
all
know
right.
what the process is, but
All right, well, very good. Folklore, that's what we're
yeah,
going to.
right.
Okay, so the almond, what I
Yeah.
found,
Hmm.
the almond tree and Phyllis, this is Greek mythology.
Okay.
Phyllis is a Thracian princess, was transformed into an almond tree after dying of heartbreak while waiting for her lover, Demophan. When he returned and embraced the tree, it miraculously bloomed, symbolizing eternal love and reunion. Well, that's sad. And then there's a Christian folklore, medieval Christian legend tells of an almond tree that bloomed miraculously in winter when the Virgin Mary rested under it during the Holy Family's flight to Egypt. See, this one, the other one was juniper that they were under. Now, well, there could have been many trees along the
Yes.
way.
And I'm sure, like, well, because they had forests unlike we have today.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. And one
So,
more here, I'll read and then see what you found.
okay.
The almond tree's curse is a Spanish folklore. A Spanish folk tale speaks of a cursed almond tree in Andalusia that bloomed blood red flowers. It was said to mark the spot where a betrayed lover was buried, and anyone who picked its almonds would be haunted by her spirit.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
That's really interesting. So, Mediterranean and biblical traditions, the almond tree is a symbol of hope, renewal, and divine favor.
Hmm.
In the Bible, Aaron's rod, which miraculously bloomed and bore almonds, symbolized God's chosen priesthood. So I was like, oh, that's interesting. I don't,
Yeah.
it's kind of, some of it's kind of nice too. Well, that was in Numbers 7, 8, if anybody wants to look it up. But like, I don't I don't ever remember, like, I mean, there's a lot of nature and everything in the Bible, but I never really zoned in on it. Like it was almost like it was like second to what the message of the whole thing was
Yeah.
instead of like,
Yeah.
the message of God instead of the actual symbolism of like what does a tree mean? What does this mean? Like so those kinds of things.
Right, right.
And in Greek mythology, it's linked to Phyllis and Demophon,
Okay.
right? Where an
Hmm.
almond tree sprouted from Phyllis's grave, which you already said, and a symbol of love and triumph.
Yeah.
And then
Eh,
fertility and prosperity, of course.
huh. This was an
Was-
unusual one. The almond tree and the genie. This is in Middle Eastern folklore. They use the word DJINN, and I had to
Oh, the genie.
research to find out what djinn meant, and it was like a genie.
Right.
And so it says in some Middle Eastern tales, almond trees are said to be guarded by a benevolent genie who protect travelers resting under their shade but demand respect. Cutting an almond tree without permission could bring misfortune.
Oh boy. And then where do you get the permission from?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Yeah,
And
do you get
get
it
the
from the
permission from the
tree,
tree,
right?
or do you get it from the person that's land it's on? Like, how does that work?
I would think you'd need it from the tree.
I would think so too.
Yeah,
Yeah. But
interesting.
yeah, but it's, it's often used in rituals and for insight and clarity too in the Persian
Hmm.
tradition. And it's really kind of interesting because it's like when you talk to I have a friend that's Persian, and when you talk to them about, these things, it's all in their culture. Like it's
Hmm.
really interesting how removed, even in our culture, we are from nature. It's like you go to
Yeah,
European countries and they can tell you stories that, like folklore stories, they can tell you all kinds of things. And then you come to America and it's almost like we lost all that. Where did that
yeah.
go? You know?
Right, right. Yeah, yeah, for sure. The for sure. Do you want to do the alder?
Sure, we can do that.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to learn more about it if you have
Sure.
time.
Yeah.
Is it alder? Is that how it's pronounced? Alder.
Well, Tato, I guess it all depends on your accent and where you're from.
There you go. Well, that's an interesting one too, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so the alder. The alder stands beside the stream and the water rushes past. The alder lets it swirl by and the stream too leaves the alder in peace. The stream supplies water and protects the alder from drying out. The alder shades the stream and protects it from becoming too warm. They sustain each other without trying to change one another. Let things be. Perfection. A breeze caresses the leaves and the heavens smile. The angel of alder heightens emotion and empathy, acceptance and forgiveness. The alder offers great comfort. It calms and supports us in letting go of pain from the past and healing old scars. Her secret is in releasing and letting life flow. Just rely on the alder and listen to the splashing of the stream, letting go of everything that is causing you pain, sorrow, grief, rage, hate, your bitter tears, surrender it all to the earth and her helpers to be transformed into fruitfulness. Allow yourself to be purified, and in so doing, cleanse yourself. The alder is also the norn of the past. Her secret ability lies in non attachment to everything except the ground on which she stands. It is through this that she teaches us as the gentle and essential art of release, of letting go. Emotions are linked with the element of water. They represent energy that must flow in order for life to continue. If we hold them in and bottle them up, we become hard and stiff, inhibited and obstructive, like the biofields,
Right?
storing all your stuck energy. And this leads to physical and spiritual paralysis and eventually to long-term physical and emotional pain. Rigid discipline replaces spontaneity and compassion, all good reasons for allowing one thing to flow into another, just like the alder.
Mm.
Interesting, the alder. So I need to have a branch of an alder tree in my house too. That would be good. The alder and the linden tree especially. So what metaphysical did you find?
The alder is associated with balance, intuition, and spiritual guidance. It's a tree of transitions, helping navigate life's challenges. It's linked to the throat and the heart chakras, aiding in clear communication and emotional resilience. Oh, I think we all need this in our house.
We do, yes. Oh,
And the spiritual use is alder wands. Alderwood is used as wands, staffs, or charms for protection, divination, and spiritual growth. It's also used in rituals to connect with water spirit or our ancestors, which I like that. I like how this is like an in between plant. This is definitely like a gateway plant.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's like I like those plants that are on those edges, but I feel like we have a theme here in our thing is like protection, 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 protection.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything is protecting. Every single tree that we talked about today is protection of something. Our spiritual
Right.
growth, our emotional growth, like our bad energies, like that's kind of been the theme of like what trees do for us.
Well, yeah, and they all do,
Hmm.
right? Like during Friend of Tree Week, that it doesn't, that's why I say it doesn't matter what kind of tree you hold, but the bigger the tree, the better, because
Right.
the energies are stronger, and so your intentions could flow further, right? And and their magic or their healing abilities are stronger because they're bigger. But yeah, it doesn't matter what kind of tree. All trees are wonderful and are here for our benefit.
Right. And it's like, when I was a kid, I used to like sit up against a tree and read a book and
Hmm.
sit under the tree for its shade,
Yeah.
and I don't know, as an adult, you don't do that as often. Like I still sit on trees sometimes, because I'm like, oh, my back's tired, but I'm not utilizing them in the same way as I did when I was a kid. Like I think that the childlike playfulness needs to return to be able to kind of like um innocently innocently be thankful for the tree and it's being there, just being there.
I agree. I agree totally. Yeah.
Hmm.
I try to remember um, to do that with trees. But I often get too much in my mind too.
Yeah, and it's funny because when I stop and I'm like, I have a lot of beech trees and I have a lot of oaks by me. But what I do is, like every once in a while, I'm like, oh, I need to stop and give you a hug, and it's like, thank you. It's like you see me, you hear me. Like
Yeah.
I've been calling for so long. Like, thank you for finally paying attention to me. Is like the feeling that I get, and it's like, oh wait, it's not only haven't I not been paying attention to you, I haven't been paying attention to myself.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. 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 They're a reflection, aren't they?
Yeah, for sure. And it's like when you stop and sit, it's like, the question that always comes to my mind every time I stop and sit with a tree, it's like, what have I been running from?
Yeah. Instead of running to.
Right. And it's like, can we stop being human doings and start being human beings? Because,
I like that. I like that.
right? Because it's like, that's what we're supposed to be is human beings, not
Beings.
human
Yeah.
doing.
I love that. I really do. It's so easy, isn't it? With our not just our busy lives, but because we're made of emotions too, right? And
Right.
we react to every all the emotions we feel or all the things around us, and then we associate different emotions with, our body takes it as bad. We learn to associate it that way, and it's like, why? Yeah, and then we're always running from, exactly like you said, or trying to get things done to prove our worthiness, or
Right.
to to prove we're good enough or lovable, or whatever, valuable, to prove our value, right? And
But we were born here valuable,
yes.
and it's like, it's that simple. Just you being alive is important. It's like, where did we come up with this construct that we're only good if, we're only good
Yeah.
when, we're only good, it's like, why can't I just be good as I am?
Yeah.
Like if God is made perfectly and I'm made in the image of God, then why am I not perfect in my being as well?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's so important.
Right?
Yeah.
Hmm.
So important.
Right.
I'll see what metaphysical here. Go ahead and talk if you found other metaphysical things too.
Well, I like the sayings. Every once in a while, I came up with a saying, and this tree says, is, "I'm the doorway. Walk with courage, and you will not be lost."
Ah, that's good.
And that just really hit me because it's like, how many times in my life have I been walking around feeling like I'm lost? And it's like, no, you're not really lost. It's
Yeah.
like, what does lost mean? Like, what is the definition? And it's like, no, we're forever changing, we're forever growing, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
You know,
I think what I found was, we've talked about already with it, for protection, for intuition and spiritual insight, balance. That was another of the trees, right? That was um, balance. I think that was the walnut, wasn't it? I don't
yep.
remember now.
Hmm.
And sacred to Bran. In Celtic mysticism, the alder is linked to the god Bran, associated with prophecy and protection. It's considered a tree of foresight, aiding in spiritual guidance. Okay, kind of ties back into the others. I just didn't know what Bran meant.
Yeah. And it's funny because it's like, it seems like when like, well, researching everything, there's a lot of information out there about Celtic traditions, and like like what they did in Ireland and Scotland and stuff like that, and a lot of the
Mhm.
Norse. But it's like, once again, I didn't find anything in America. This is what it was in America. This is what it represents. Like,
Yeah,
so I
yeah,
found that kind of interesting. I mean, yeah, granted, like that's the old world and this is the new world, but even within the new world, there has to be stories that were told other than, the battle of, Bighorn, or, like these kinds of like wars, like where's the history of the United States? Where is
yeah.
the
Where's the real
veins that
history?
the veins of commonality that run through? Where's the history? Like, like what was here
Mhm.
before?
And there was things before.
Right, exactly. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
where are they? Where are those stories? Where are
Yeah, where are
those?
the stories? Yeah, that's right.
Yep,
I think they're being found. I
I
think
hope
more and
so.
more they're being found.
Yeah.
Um, so I was going to look at here, the last one here that I'd found. Metaphysically, the alder embodies resilience and strength, often used in rituals to bolster courage or to recover from emotional and spiritual challenges. Yeah.
Mm. No, you
Mhm.
should use that in your work, especially
I
if
should,
somebody's been like, having emotional or spiritual challenges, like just to
yeah,
kind of bring them back to their center,
yeah,
especially if they've had a really emotional, meeting with you. That would be a good
yeah.
a good suggestion, even if they just sat with Alder.
Yeah, I'll have to do more research finding where they grow mostly and see if they could grow here where I live.
Yeah. I mean, do you have a stream by you?
A stream, no, not real, not by the house anyway.
Mhm.
But
But maybe they already grow. We just haven't met it yet.
yeah, yeah, very likely. Yeah, yeah,
Because
because
it's funny, because usually, every plant that I'm like, oh, I wish I could meet this one, and then next thing you know, it's right at your front door, and you're like, oh, there it is.
there it is. Yeah, let's
you
hope
know?
that that's true.
Yeah. Like,
All
even
right,
for me, they're like, "Oh, cottonwood doesn't really grow by you." And I was like, "Really?" Because look at my hand. I have all this resin on my hand. I was like, "This is what," and then it's like, in a rare instance, these, special kinds of cottonwoods grow here, and it's the only place on Long Island it's found. And I was like, "No way." I was like, "See, I told you I met cottonwood before."
that's cottonwood. Cottonwood's my other very favorite.
Yeah.
Um, very favorite. It's a childhood tree. Yeah,
Yeah.
my farm was covered with them. Yeah.
So,
Oh, lovely.
yeah.
So let's end then with the alder folklore.
Okay.
The green man of the forest. In British folklore, the alder is said to house the spirit of the green man, a forest deity. It is believed that cutting an alder without permission could anger the green man, causing misfortune or illness.
Mm. And I'm sure a lot of elders got cut because now everybody wants to live by the water.
Yeah, yeah.
you
Huh.
know?
And here's another interesting one. Fairy shields. In Scottish tales, the alder wood was used to craft shields because it was believed to be favored by fairies. Warriors carrying alder shields were thought to receive fairy protection in battle.
Hmm.
That's neat. Did
And
you
I
find?
wonder if fairy is like synonymous with like bridge walkers, or, things between realms.
Mm,
Because it's like
maybe
fairies,
so.
they like, the word fairy kind of is used to like explain the unexplainable,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like witch, like it became bad, but it was really just earthly people, you know?
Right, right.
Like,
Yeah,
oh, when it becomes simple, it's like, what is a fairy really, Like,
yeah, yeah.
so for me, I found the Celtic tradition is alder is a sacred tree to Bran, and it is associated with prophecy, protection, and resurrection.
Ah,
It's considered a tree of balance, bringing worlds of water and land due to its ability to grow in wet environments.
hmm,
And then the Irish agam, alder is it's in the alphabet, the Agam alphabet, and alder is fern. It represents fern, so it's strength, protection, and guidance. It was used to make shields,
okay,
symbolizing defense of both spiritual and physical battles.
okay.
And in European folklore, Adler was believed to protect uh, to have protective qualities with its wood used to make charms or tools to ward off harm. Its red sap resembling blood linked to the life, death, and rebirth cycles.
Interesting. Yeah. When that interesting red sap. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And the only
unusual.
other tree, the only other plant that I know of, not that there's not any other ones, but the only other plant that I know of that has red sap, and I wonder how red it is like the dragon's blood in South America.
Okay.
Another, plant that has that red sap.
Mm-hmm.
But in South America, the red sap of the dragon's blood is actually they use it almost as a band-aid because it like gets this hard crust over it. So they use it in like in I guess it would be like jungle medicine as like a band-aid.
Hmm.
So it's got
Okay.
microbial antibacterial purpose. So I'd be interested in seeing what the sap looks like, how red it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Would be
And I wonder
interesting.
why it's red. Like that always questions me too. Like, is it because like what nutrient is it, getting from the earth that's causing that redness? Is it because of all the minerals? Is it because of a specific mineral? Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's just how my mind works. I'm like, where does that red
Yeah.
come from?
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. You could see if maybe if it, I don't know, grew in iron colored soil, kind of the orangey, that
Right.
maybe it could come. I don't know how that would come. Or
Yeah.
red rocks, like Colorado has red rock area, right?
Hmm.
Um, Interesting. Yeah, interesting thought. Well, do you have any closing thought or comment you'd like to make about trees in general, or any of the trees that we covered today in specific? Or
Well, I think that, I think the tree's message is to, like remind us to stop and slow down and that, they're here to carry us. I mean, think about it. They're here for hundreds of years. We're only here for a blip in their time.
yeah.
So it's like we don't even know the stories that they hold when you see those old big ancient trees. You'll never know unless you stop. Just like you stop to smell the roses or you stop to see, the passion flower or whatever. I think it's
Hmm.
also important to stop and sit with your tree. What does it say?
Yeah.
How does it make you feel? You know, get that book out, read it.
Yeah.
Use your tree as your backbone. I think that the biggest thing that I feel coming out of this is like, don't forget us. Don't forget us.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of what Friend a Tree Week was for.
Yeah,
Don't forget the trees. Use them. They're here for us. They're meant for our healing, right?
yeah,
They're meant for our strength. Uh,
absolutely.
Awesome. Beautiful. And so, April, thank you so very much for joining me again. I love our discussions,
I
and
do too.
it's just fun.
It
And
is.
thank you, everybody else. And oh, April, before you go, please tell people how they can get hold of you. You're
Um,
just a
I'm at
wealth of information.
I'm
And
at blooming-curiosity.com, and also I can be found on Instagram and Facebook at Blooming Curiosity.
all right, very good. And I hope y'all check April out there. She's a plethora of information and a wonderful woman. So, all right. Well, talk to y'all. Thank you all for watching. And please go hold a tree and send your intentions through the universe. Bye bye.